Thank you all for being here. I appreciate this opportunity because it motivated me to go back and reread books that have been very important to me. The book I'm going to be reading from is Consolations, which is by David White. It's Whyte. He's a poet and actually a Fortune 500 consultant, and is had great adventures in the Galapagos and Nepal, and I think he was able to distill things very well. So Consolations is about the solace, nourishment, and underlining meaning of everyday words. So I picked out some of the words that I thought would be interesting for the group. And the first is ambition. Ambition is a word that lacks any real ambition. Ambition is best desire frozen, the current of vocational life immobilized and over-concretized to set unforgiving goals. Ambition may be essential for the young and as yet unrealized life, but becomes the essential obstacle of any mature life. Ambition abstracts us from the underlying elemental nature of the creative conversation while providing us the cover of a target that has become false through over-description, over-familiarity, and too much understanding. The ease of having an ambition is that it can be explained to others. The very disease of ambition is that it can be so readily explained to others. What is worthy of a life's dedication does not want to be known by us in ways that diminish its actual sense of presence. Everything true to itself has its own secret language and an internal intentionality with a secret, surprising flow, even to the person who supposedly puts it all in motion. Yep, here. Ambition takes willpower and constant application of energy to stay on a perceived bearing. But a serious vocational calling demands a constant attention to the unknown gravitational field that surrounds us and from which we recharge ourselves, as if breathing from the atmosphere of possibility itself. Life's work is not a series of stepping stones onto which we calmly place our feet, but more like an ocean crossing where there is no path, only a heading, a direction, in conversation with the elements. Looking back, we see the weight we have left as only a brief glimmering trace on the waters. Ambition is natural in the first steps of youth. We must experience its essential falsity to know the larger reality that stands behind it. But held on to too long, and especially in eldership, it always comes to lack surprise, turns the last years of the ambitious into a second childhood, and makes the once successful into an object of pity. The authentic watermark running through the background of life's work is an arrival at generosity and, as a mark of that generosity, delight in the hopes of the young and the giving away to them, not only of rewards that may have been earned, but the reward in the secret itself, the core artistry that made the journey. Perhaps the greatest legacy we can leave from our work is not to instill ambition in others, though this may be the first way we describe its rival in our life, but the passing on a sense of sheer privilege of having found a road, a way to follow, and then having been allowed to walk it, often with others, with all its difficulties and minor triumphs, the underlying primary gift of having been both the witness to and a full participant in the conversation. I think one could mull on that for time. close. Close is what we almost always are. Close to happiness, close to another, close to leaving, close to tears, close to God, close to losing faith, close to being done, close to saying something, or close to success, and even with the greatest sense of satisfaction, close to giving the whole thing up. Our human essence lies not in arrival, but in being almost there. We are creatures who are on the way, our journey a series of impending, anticipated arrivals. Skip some. To consciously become close is a courageous form of unilateral disarmament, a chancing of our arm and our love, a willingness to hazard our affections, and an unconscious declaration that we might be equal to the inevitable loss that is the vulnerability of being close to the dream. Human beings do not find their essence through fulfillment or eventual arrival, but by staying close to the way they like to travel, to the way they hold the conversation between the ground on which they stand and the horizon to which they go. We are, in effect, always close to the ultimate secret. That we are more real in our simple wish to find a way than any destination we could reach. The step between not understanding that and understanding that is as close as we get to happiness. Destiny. Destiny always has a possessor, as in my destiny, your destiny, or her destiny. It gives a sense of something we cannot avoid or something waiting for us. It is a word of storybook or mythic dimensions. Destiny is hardly used in everyday conversation. It is a word that invites belief or disbelief. We reject the ordering of events by some fated, unseen force, but we agree that there seems to be a greater hand than our own, working at the edges of even the most average life. By speaking of destiny, not only grants us a sense of our own possibilities, but gives us an intimation of our flaws. We sense, along with Shakespeare, that what is unresolved or unspoken in human character might overwhelm the better part of ourselves. Strangely, every person always lives out their destiny, no matter what they do, according to the way they shape the conversation. But that destiny may be lived out on the level of consummation or complete frustration through experiencing a homecoming or a distant sense of exile, or more likely, some gradation along the spectrum that lies between. It is still our destiny, our life, but the sense of satisfaction involved and the possibility of fulfilling its promise may depend on a brave participation, a willingness to hazard ourselves in a difficult world, a certain form of wild generosity with our gifts, a familiarity with our own depth, our own discovered, surprising breadth, and always a long practiced and robust vulnerability equal to what any future may offer. Our destiny is fated not only by great powers beyond our beckoning horizon, by the very way we shape and hold everyday conversations of a familiar life. The point, disappointment is inescapable, but necessary. A misunderstood mercy, and when approached properly, an agency for transformation and the hidden underground engine of trust and generosity in human life. The attempt to create a life devoid of disappointment is the attempt to avoid the vulnerabilities that make the conversations of life real, moving, and lifelike. It is the attempt to avoid our own necessary and merciful heartbreak. To be disappointed is to reassess ourself and our inner world, and to be called to the larger foundational reality that lies beyond any false sense that we've only projected on the outer world. And when I skip over material, it's very disappointing to me. The measure of our courage is the measure of our willingness to embrace disappointment, to turn towards it rather than away. The understanding that every real conversation of life involves having our hearts broken somewhere along the way, and that there is no sincere path we can follow where we will not be fully and immeasurably let down and brought to earth, where what initially looks like a betrayal eventually puts real ground under our feet. The great question in disappointment is whether we allow it to bring us to ground, to a firmer sense of self, a surer sense of our world, and what is good and possible for us in that world, or whether we experience it only as a wound that makes us retreat from further participation. Disappointment is a friend to transformation, a call to both accuracy and generosity in the assessment of ourselves and others, a test of the sincerity and the catalyst to resilience. Disappointment is just the initial meeting with the frontier of an evolving life, an invitation to reality, which we expected to be one particular way and turns out to be another, often something more difficult, more overwhelming, and strangely, in the end, more rewarding. Friendship. Friendship is a mirror to presence and a testament to forgiveness. Friendship not only helps us see ourselves through another's eyes, but can be sustained over the years only with someone who has repeatedly forgiven us for our trespasses. We must find it in ourselves to forgive them in turn. A friend knows our difficulties and shadows and remains in sight, a companion to our vulnerabilities more than our triumphs, when we are under the strange illusion that we do not need them. An undercurrent of real friendship is a blessing exactly because its elemental form is rediscovered again and again through understanding and mercy. All friendships of any length are based on a continued mutual forgiveness. Without tolerance and mercy, all friendships die. Skip a page or two. Friendship transcends disappearance. An enduring friendship goes on after death. The exchange only transmuted by absence, the relationship advancing and maturing in a silent, internal, conversational way, even after one half of the bond has passed on. But no matter the medicinal virtues of being a true friend or sustaining a long, close friendship with another, the ultimate touchstone friendship is not improvement, neither of the other nor of the self. The ultimate touchstone is witness, the privilege of having been seen by someone, and the equal privilege of being granted the sight of the essence of another, to have walked with them and to have believed in them, and sometimes just to have accompanied them for however brief a span on a journey impossible to accomplish alone. Gratitude. Gratitude is not a passive response to something we have been given. Gratitude arises from paying attention, from being awake in the presence of everything that lives within and without us. Gratitude is not necessarily something that is shown after the event. It is the deep, a priori state of attention that shows we understand and are equal to the gifted nature of life. Thankfulness finds its full measure in generosity of presence, both through participation and witness. We sit at the table as part of every other person's world while making our own world without will or effort. This is what is extraordinary and gifted. This is the essence of gratefulness, seeing to the heart of privilege. Thanksgiving happens when we put our sense of presence meets all other presences. Being unappreciative might mean we're simply not paying attention. Help. Help is strangely something we want to do without, as if the very idea disturbs and blurs the boundaries of our individual endeavors, as if we cannot face how much we need in order to go on. We are born with an absolute necessity for help. Grow well only with a continuous succession of extended hands, and as adults, depend upon others for our further successes and possibilities in life, even as competent individuals. Even the most solitary writer needs a reader. The most Machiavellian mobster, trusted lieutenant. The most independent candidate, voter. Not only does the need for help never leave us alone, but we must apprentice ourselves to its different necessary forms at each particular threshold of our lives. At every stage, we're dependent on our ability to ask for specific forms of help at very specific times and very specific ways. Even at the end, the dignity of our going depends on others' willingness to help us die well. The sincerity of their help, often commensurate to the help we extended to them in our own life. Every transformation has at its heart the need to ask for the right kind of generosity. Maybe the ability to know the necessity for help, to know how to look for that help, and then, most importantly, how to ask for it, is one of the primary transformative dynamics that allows us to emancipate ourselves into each new epoch of our lives. Without the understanding that we need a particular form of aid at every crucial threshold in our lives, and without the robust vulnerability in asking for that help, we cannot pass through the door that bars us from the next dispensation of our lives. We cannot birth ourselves. In the end comes also our beginning, the ancient sense of a door opening to some final, unknown, some invisible voice attempting to help us come to terms with our own disappearance. The hand extended to help us over a horizon equally as mysterious as the one we crossed at our birth. Nostalgia. Skip to the last sentence. You know? Nostalgia is not an immersion in the past. Nostalgia is the first annunciation that the past as we know it is coming to an end. Pain. Pain is the doorway to the here and now. Physical or emotional pain is an ultimate form of ground saying to each of us, in effect, there is no other place than this place, no other body than this body, no other limb, joint, pain, or sharpness, or heartbreak, this searing presence. Pain asks us to heal by focusing not only on the place the pain is felt, but also the actual way pain is felt. Pain is a form of alertness and particularity. Pain is a way in. Pain's beautiful humiliations make us naturally humble and force us to put aside the guise of pretense. In real pain, we have no other choice but to learn and ask for help, and on a daily basis. Pain tells us that we belong and cannot live forever alone or in isolation. Pain makes us understand reciprocation. In real pain, often have nothing to give back other than our own gratitude. A smile that perhaps looks half like a grimace, or the passing friendship of a thankful moment to a helpful stranger. Pain can be an introduction to real friendship. It tests those friends we think we already have, but also introduces us to those who newly and surprisingly come to our aid. I'm going to jump to Consolations 2. Just came out a couple of months ago, and so not even finished all of this. The three words that I'm going to use this time are humor, time, and end. Seems quite appropriate. This will be short, and maybe it'll be time to go back to I skipped over here. Humor is a disguised form of spiritual discipline, an art form dedicated to the never-ending, multi-contextual, and multivalent nature of reality. A sense of humor tells us that whatever context we might have arranged for ourselves, there's always another context that makes our particular context absurd. Absurdity is a subversion of my present too narrow belief and my too narrow sense of myself. My appreciation of a suddenly revealed absurdity tells me, even in the midst of laughter, that I'm willing to learn. Humor is my savior. Shared humor, equally appreciated, helps to save us both. Shared humor tells us that we are on the edge of discovering or seeing something new again, together. Skip to the end of this. Humor is at its best. It's the passing on of happiness, the natural overflow of felt joy, the ability to lift another's spirits. One person laughing contagiously, but when we are lonely or alone, a sudden jolly arrival of companionable travelers, sweeping us up and on in the joy of communal advantage. Humor can be both a personal and a communal gift, a lifting of the spirits that allows us to look down on our previous commitment to the necessary glumness and see just how much of that shadowed, narrow melancholy was of our own making, how much we refused to get over ourselves, how much we refused to be humiliated in instructive ways, to see or hear things new and surprising about the world and about ourselves. How much we refuse to come out and meet the merciful subversive, humiliating, vicious, multi-contextual world that refuses, and always has refused, our every sober, puritanical, no-nonsense attempt to pin it down. Time is on our side. Time is not our enemy. Time is our greatest friend. If we come to know time in its most intimate, unfolding way, and not through the abstract measure we have made of it, time starts to grant a greater, more spacious, more elemental, and even eternal freedom every mortal, seemingly time-bound human life. Time is not slipping through our fingers. Time is here forever. It is we who are slipping through the fingers of time. Memory and the traces of memory grant me a sense of time passing and also enable me to learn. How I remember through time, how I learn, and how I put those memories and that learning into conversation with the future shapes my identity for good or for ill. As our war against time quietens, we take joy in the increased acuity of our ears, the entrancing aromas, rain, and fresh leaves that we previously never gave ourselves the time to breathe. Time is left, time is left to itself, to be itself, and to grow what it needs to grow in every season of human life. In a deeply rested state, as we loosen our grip on what we think is time, our sense of bodily tension falls away, along with the falling away of a falsely measured self. And out of that, we can begin to experience that joyful radiance we call timelessness, going through every cell of our previously time-bound bodies. Just as now, as I write these last lines, quiet late night hours in a hotel bar in Italy, listening to miracle hands moving softly over the keys, perfectly tuned piano, memory meeting the moment in each note, and then memory and the moment both disappearing and reappearing in the onward music, each note exquisitely timed, part of an onward and unstoppable flow. This moment in time, inherited from all previous times, rippling into the future for all time. And look at in the last reading, end. End is a word that stays satisfyingly true to its meaning by bringing itself to an end before it has really begun, by carrying the illusion of being an end in itself, by holding out the ancient but forlorn human hope for a word to end all words. The word denotes the decisive wielding of a power in human life to bring something, or even shockingly someone, to an end. It's seen as a decisive, consequential action by a person who carries an almost mythological power. To be someone who has ended something is to be someone who has taken the reins of their life at last and who now has the power to take a new direction. Someone who was brought to a satisfying close that needed to be closed a long time ago. But mercifully, the word end also carries along on its very short back its own ancient, abiding, and companionable spirit of contradiction. To announce that something has ended is to elicit an immediate and opposite reaction. We only have to be told that something has ended to immediately search in our mind all the ways it is certainly not ended. We have only to be told that something is out of fashion to immediately bring to mind all the ways that it continues against all odds to abide in our lives. And most secretly and embarrassingly, in our own boardroom. Even those definitive and dissatisfying words, the end, read at the end of an old-fashioned film or novel, only serve to make us think of the new life this particular ending grants to all the characters whose lives we've been following to this last definitive, arbitrarily drawn threshold of their lives. End almost never means the end. End only means we have reached the limit of our ability to track what is occurring. End is the word that introduces us to an intimacy with the anticipation of, and even a readiness, new beginnings. Thank you all for being here. Yes. Oh, questions, yes.
What's the time interval between the two?
So the first was about in 2000, around 2014. It was about almost a decade. And I just find we so have subscribed to some of his Zoom sessions, and to hear him read poetry with this Irish lilt, and then to describe the situation that led to him writing this poem. And when he reads a poem, he'll read the same line sometimes 2-3 times because he wants that to sink in, not to race through it. So we just find him to be a very interesting character. I also, he has part of his early life story in Crossing the Unknown Sea, work as a pilgrimage and journey. Since most of us are not working now, many of the lessons here are not as relevant. There's one part in here where he's in the Galapagos and he's a guide. And there's a kind of a borehole that the waves come in and up about a 30-foot geyser. It's very predictable, and he likes to go down there and sort of stand by it and get wet, and then the tourists will have to give him higher tips. Oh, it's very, very nice. And he goes down with a ship crewmate to stand there, and they wait for it to come up, but it doesn't come up. And he looks out to the sea, had been crashing against the side, and kind of being sucked down. And he realizes this is one of these waves. And before he can do anything, it just comes crashing through, sending him up in the air, and his colleague up in the air. He finds himself at the edge, holding at the edge of the blowhole, and he can't even see his colleague. And then the next wave comes in and casts him up into safety. And his colleague is partly badly injured. It's not. And so it's very adventurous, very exciting. And I almost read it, but I thought I wanted to hear more definitions first. And then when he goes back to Ireland, he's with his mother. They're having a little dram drink, and he was plucked from the waves, and he never has told him this. And they're sitting down as one might sit with their mother to reminisce and this and that. She said, when you were in the Galapagos, I had the strangest dream. I dreamed that you were on these rocks, and I dreamed that waves just crashed into you, and I had to reach down, grab your arm.
Whoa.
Oh God, there are mysteries that we don't understand. So anyway, I commend his writing too. Thank you all.
Thank you.